Greetings, all you pirates out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with a review of One Piece Stampede. Now, this movie was just released not too long ago in the US as of this recording. We had a version released in subbed, and we had a version released in dub. And I actually ended up watching both versions. I was just that intrigued. I had to, especially because of certain voice choices, and I was just interested in which directions certain ways that characters would talk would actually end up going. And I'm actually glad I made that choice because there was a lot of stuff that was just enhanced by being able to see both versions of the movie as a whole. But the movie prop opens up at, of all places, when Blackbeard broke into Impel Down in order to get his new allies for, the Blackbeard pirates, Katarina Devon and, Vasco Shad and all of them. However, you notice that Blackbeard doesn't take one prisoner from level 6, and that prisoner is none other than Douglas Bullet, who had been in prison for almost around 20 years, ever since the fall of Roger. Now, the backstory for Douglas Bullet is actually very straightforward, but I feel that a lot of people haven't taken the nuances out of his whole character arc in terms of this movie. But I'll get to that in a moment. Douglas actually teams up with this guy named Buenafesta, who is this notable pirate broker, broker of information and all that good stuff. And way back during the time of Roger, he used to hold these grand events and, parties and various things of that nature. And the only real rule of the Pirate Fest is just don't let the Navy know. As long as the Navy doesn't know anything, you're good, you're set, you're good to go. So naturally, never looking to miss out on a big party, naturally the Straw Hats go in for a fun time of just food, frivolity, and adventure. And man, that opening shot where you see the Pirate Fest in its entirety is a beauty to behold. This is a movie for One Piece fans because it is a who's who of cameos in that opening 5 minutes of this movie. You're seeing Kami, you're seeing Hachi, you're seeing Papuga, you're seeing Mr. Five, and you're seeing Miss Valentine's Day, and you're seeing Miss Monday and Mr. Nine, and all these characters just in crowd shots. Man, and dude, there should be a drinking game for every time you notice Panda Man. In fact, don't do that, because you might just get alcohol poisoning from that. But, Panda Man is just strewn throughout this movie in various different moments and scenes and everything. But the main event to this Pirate Fest is the fact that apparently it's a search for Gold Roger's treasure. Now, it's not specifically stated that it's the One Piece, it's just some offshoot treasure, this more minor side treasure that he had out there. And the commentators for this is one unnamed other guy that I don't really care too much about, but the green-haired chick is named An, and she is actually from the One Piece Tokyo Tower live show, which was actually a pretty nice little bit of continuity, although ultimately she's not in continuity. Movies never really are, but yeah, he has this power to project holographic images, and that's how, in during the live show, she'd create these holographic images of different events and different characters who would normally never show up and stuff of that nature. So she's commentating with this other guy about this event. We're seeing a who's who of the worst generation all coming in for this event, and we actually see that it involves a lot of different elements that we've already seen in the movie. Whereas in this island that has these three connecting rivers to this massive pool of water in the center of the island, and in this pool of water, a massive knock-up stream erupts from the center of it, of all things. Like, dude, a knock-up stream? But not just that, we see various different bubbles come out of it as well. Bubbles containing an island in and of itself, very much like Fishman Island and the bubbles of Sabodi, which would just be very dense and able to contain these various different physical elements, no matter how it took something pretty big in order to pop it. And we see that lying on this island is this mound of treasure just in the center. And all the worst generation goes racing up. You see Kid's pirate crew. You see Hawkins' pirate crew. You see Aru, Jewelry, Bonnie, Baze, Capone Beiji, Hawkins, and who am I missing? X-Drake, Scratchman Apu, but one Nova who is missing from the situation is Trafalgar Law. In fact, Trafalgar, we actually see that he was injured having infiltrated the island's deepest depths, and he found out something he wasn't supposed to, and he was being chased down by none other than Buggy, who is in charge of security for the island itself. So Buggy and Alvida, as well as Mr. 3, are chasing after him. He notices the Straw Hat ship. He uses his power to, switch into their ship as they get ready to go up the knock-up stream using their Kuda burst with some attachments that create the going sunny Emperor Penguin mode. And as Buggy starts to catch up to them, they go racing off to the front of the pack up the knock-up stream, because they have actual experience with knock-up streams. So they go racing up, they're battling it out with all the other pirate crews to race to the top, going at it with Kid, because we're keeping up that rivalry with Kid that we've seen in the manga. Like, oh, it's such an intense moment. It's so fun. And you hear the music of We Go playing in the background. It's so fun. It's so great. It's so amazing. And all the ships go landing into the island, luckily managing to land in water. But Luffy and Zoro go racing up to the treasure, and we see all these various different clashes as everyone goes racing for it. You're seeing Kid clashing with Luffy, and you're seeing Oro clashing with Luffy, and you're seeing X-Drake going at it with Kid, and you're seeing Capone Beiji send out his armies. You're seeing Scratchman Apu sending out his beats and all that good stuff. It's just like, it is a who's who. There is so much intensity to this moment. And my friend who had asked me this before we saw the movie is just like, man, which of the supernovas has Luffy not met? And by this point I had seen it in Japanese first, and I was going to the dub premiere. And I'm like, oh, I didn't want to spoil it, because it's just like Luffy basically meets all the supernovas he hasn't met until this point. Even Jewelry Bonnie is pretty much getting into it. And there's this clash between Zoro and Killer that's pretty damn awesome. And as Luffy slowly making his way up to the treasure, who grabs it but none other than Buggy for some reason, because he's always down for treasure. Luffy knocks him off all the heap of treasure. He goes rolling down the mountain. He takes a look at the treasure inside, and he freaks out for a moment. But as everyone starts chasing him, all of a sudden this giant galleon goes rocketing up to the bubble up in the sky, and it just blows it apart. It explodes. Everything comes crumbling down. It's chaos and pandemonium. And, it's not just in there, that little section as well, but outside as well, as everyone at the Pirate Fest comes to find out that the Marines have arrived. Now the Marines were actually technically already there, as Smoker and Tashigi were already on the island. Smoker went off to go investigate. And while Luffy and Zoro were off doing their own thing, before they had gone out, they met up with Trafalgar Law. He told him, the Skinny, that the whole situation wasn't on the up and up. So Trafalgar ends up booking it with Robin, Brook, Sanji, and Chopper in order to investigate. They make their way into the bowels of the actual island, and they end up finding out that everything isn't on the up and up, and the fact that Buena Festa is getting ready to initiate, of all things, a buster call. So they're freaking out. They're trying to get the information back to Luffy. They're unable to get in contact with Usopp because of events going on up top. Sanji and the rest of them end up running into Smoker, and we have this battle between Sanji and Smoker, and it's just like, I never would have thought we would see a throwdown, drag out fight between Smoker and Sanji, but it's pretty cool, as he has Law take Robin so they can get some information to Luffy. And while, Law and Robin are making their way, they end up running into none other than Crocodile, which, a lot of people are like, oh, it doesn't make any sense why Crocodile was there. Yes, it does. Some great treasure that was Roger's, and Crocodile we know for a fact, has dreams of becoming the Pirate King because of Miss Golden Week's cover story. Like, of course Crocodile's there. And I love the way he greets Robin. It's just like, Miss All Sunday, long time no see. But he's actually in for a meeting with, Trafalgar Law, because he has a plan he wants to initiate. And it's just like, Crocodile and Trafalgar Law teaming up? What the hell? But meanwhile, we actually find out that while the island was blown to bits and plummeting from the sky, none other than Usopp managed to find and grab the box as everyone was falling. Unfortunately, as he peeked inside and freaked out at what he saw, he was confronted by none other than Douglas Bullet. And once again, just like at Water 7 with the Frankie family, Usopp was beaten to shit, and Douglas starts talking mad trash about Usopp, like crewmate who couldn't even protect one bit of treasure, useless. And Luffy is pissed. And when everyone starts questioning why Douglas Bullet of all people would be here, he's looking to challenge the worst generation to a fight, because they're like the strongest up and coming pirates of the new generation, and he's looking to make a bit of a name for himself. Now this is when we start to get into some of the backstory for Douglas Bullet himself. As we come to find out, his whole backstory is that he was a child soldier who was involved in this long-standing, 100-year war in this place called Goldsburg or something like that, and he was single-handedly responsible for ending the conflict because of his immense strength. This guy was no joke. And he manages to knock down, drag out everyone there, but unfortunately, because of his wild power and all that, he becomes unruly for the people of his own hometown. They basically kick him the F out. He starts to cause a ruckus on the high seas, comes across Roger after some point. Roger manages to actually be the one person who defeats Bullet, and Bullet ends up teaming up with Roger. But now after Roger's execution, Douglas is talking some mad trash. He's just like, When Luffy starts talking about friendship and crewmates and all that, Douglas is just like, ah, that's nothing. Roger had all of that, and look what got him. Whitebeard had all that, and he died trying to save one of his crewmates. It just goes to show you that the only person you can count on, the only one who can give you true strength, is yourself. So, Douglas is talking some mad trash, Luffy is having none of it, and all the other supernovas go diving in. But Luffy goes in hard and fast from the get-go, but Douglas is fast as all get out. He just starts bodying people left and right. And over time, they actually do manage to start, striking out against him. It starts to seem like maybe they're kind of getting a little bit of a win because they start to actually involuntarily start working together, even though they have their own egos that would never allow them to work together. It's basically a situation where they have no choice. And as they're going at it, and it's starting to seem like they got a little bit of an edge, Douglas just pops on out and he's just completely fine. And the one thing I didn't mention was, like, right before that fight started, Douglas sent out this massive wave of Conqueror's Haki, and it started clashing with Luffy's Conqueror's Haki. And I love the way the anime does Conqueror's Haki battles, because it's such a, you feel that, they make sure you feel the intensity of that moment when these two forces clash. You ain't seen something like that since Luffy versus Katakuri. That should tell you how intense this dude is. But he is bodying the supernovas left and right. He's taking on Luffy's best attack. It is insanity how just incredibly strong this dude is. And if I had to place him anywhere, I'd say he is definitely a tier above Katakuri. Even though Katakuri, he greatly weakened himself during the fight with Luffy by stabbing himself in the side, but I feel like this dude could give Katakuri a real run for his money. He doesn't feel like he's Yonko level, like the Yonko, just the way I've seen them take on their own commanders, like with Big Mom versus Queen, like the way that fight went, like nah, I don't think he's that strong, but man, he's in between like a Yonko and a Yonko commander level. He's somewhere around there. And like, it makes sense because apparently this dude, all that time he was in Impel Down, he's been honing his strength somehow and just, managing to the point where he's just like, this dude just seems to have it in him. And I think that's why Blackbeard ultimately didn't even take Bullet, because he's just like, this guy, I ain't messing with that one. That one will only lead to trouble. And it's the exact kind of trouble he's dishing out here. And as he beats down all of the supernovas, he decides to reveal that he actually has a Devil Fruit ability on top of everything else. And as he summons his submarine, the catapult, we find out that he has the Clack Clack Fruit ability, which allows him to combine various different inanimate objects, and he turns his submarine into this massive mech suit, and he just starts stomping on everyone once again. But up comes Usopp, bloody and broken, and he's firing his pop greens at the sub. It doesn't seem like it's doing anything, but you do see like one of them, on upon impact, just, wrap around the finger, crushing it. But as Luffy's lying on the floor, bloody and broken and bruised, Usopp is trying to defend his captain, show him what he's made of, but Douglas ain't having none of it, and he blasts Usopp to shit. Meanwhile, Nami and Frankie have made their way up to the coast, and they've made their way with Cavendish and Bartolomeo, who are also there, and they end up fighting the Navy along the sides. We have Sentomaru and a bunch of the pacifistas, as well as Kobe and Helmeppo, and Django, as well well as full body. They're fighting all the pirates and stuff who are trying to escape from the Navy and all that good stuff. And you get some good action scenes from Frankie and Nami and Chopper and Brooke. Robin has actually been searching through to find like a map of the island with Sanji, and they find one and they go racing back, because Sanji kind of broke off his fight with Smoker after he's just like, hey, we know what you're up to, a bustler call, how despicable, which Smoker had no information about this. So Smoker makes his way to the coast. He ends up running into none other than Hina. Hina informs him of basically everything that seems to be going on, although it's obvious she only knows so much as well. And Smoker decides to head back in because we end up finding out that what was in the chest that Douglas took from Usopp was none other than a log post to Laftel. Not Raftel, Laftel. Which is just like, yo, that exists? So that's why Crocodile's on the island, because he wants the One Piece. And we even find out, during the course of the movie that Rob Lucci is also there with CP0. And naturally, he's also after something like that. He wants it for the government. So all these unknown hidden elements are moving about. We also see that Sabo is on the island as well with the Revolutionary Army. So all these moving parts are just converging in on Douglas Bullet and Buena Festa, who Buena Festa is having a field day with all of this. We come to find out that Buena Festa's deal, as he's talking with the black market and the underworld people, one of which is none other than Big News Morgan of all people, he's talking about the fact that, after Roger made his declaration about One Piece, Buena Festa fell into this deep depression, like, I can't top this, how could I possibly top that? But with Douglas having the log post to none other than Laftel, it's just like, there it is. I can finally steal Roger's thunder. And he makes this proclamation to the world, say, if you want this treasure, you have to fight one of the strongest beings in all the world, the demon's heir, Douglas Bullet. And he's threatening the entirety of the underworld and all this stuff. So man, if this doesn't go off without a hitch, Buena Festa's name is dirt. He betrayed everyone in terms of criminals. But Douglas, as the Navy starts to move in, we actually see him start to absorb everything around him because he has awakened devil fruit abilities, and it creates this massive, gigantic monstrosity. Like, think Pika, but twice that size. That's Douglas Bullet in his awakened form. It's like some knight on Bald Mountain shit. And he just starts decimating the vice admirals and everything like that. And off to the side, we actually see that Kizaru is on one of the ships, and, all the information gets reported back to headquarters. We see, I think his name is Brand New, reporting everything they know about Bullet, and we come to find out with Garp addressing Sengoku that they had actually been the ones to take in Bullet, very much like with Shiki, Gold Lion Shiki, but with Douglas Bullet, they had to bring him in by unleashing the full power of a Buster Call at that time. And that's what Bullet wants, as Sakazuki Akauno actually enforces that a Buster Call will be put out. But this is what Douglas Bullet wants, as, he believes that since a Buster Call is what defeated him before, if he's able to take down one of the strongest things the world over, this Buster Call, then he will prove himself as the strongest. Like, so he's definitely on some Broly shit, but, this is all this dude knows: strength, power, fighting, superiority. That's his bread and butter. That was how this man was raised. Douglas is the brawn, Buena Festa is the ambition. They're both kind of shallow to a certain degree, but it's still very entertaining. And we also see that, Boa Hancock has arrived, as well as Admiral Fujitora, and, he clashes with Zoro on the coast, and they have this little bit of a skirmish. But after a while, Fujitora up and leaves, but he leaves Zoro with this massive meteor from on high to take care of most of the pirates. So Zoro goes flying up, and he does his, 10,000 worlds, Daiten Sensekai, and he slices the meteor in two, which is pretty awesome. But it's just like, you just made two of them though. So it's still falling on everybody. And in comes Mihawk, just blows it to smithereens. So it's just like, yo, that just goes to show you that Zoro still has a ways to go, and I love that moment. That was a great moment. I love the fight between Fujitora and Zoro. I love the, Mihawk showing up Zoro. That was fun. We even get to see a moment with Perona taking on Sentomaru, which, yeah, of course she kind of beat him. She's incorporeal. But a nice little moment there, but, Boa Hancock has also shown up, and she goes racing off to find Luffy, and, we end up, having Usopp dragging Luffy, across the burning fields and all this, proclaiming, not wanting to be weak and just damning his weakness and all that good stuff, but, they end up being found by both Brook and Chopper, who, Usopp, even though he's beaten to all bloody hell, is just like, no, treat Luffy. So Usopp is really having some self-esteem issues, but Luffy is treated. He manages to get back up. Usopp proclaims his weakness and he asks for forgiveness from his captain, but, Luffy is pissed at this point, and he's just like, how dare he put my friend down like that? So Luffy goes racing off in his bound man form to take on, Bullet, despite the fact that Bullet is just like twice as powerful as before, because this massive behemoth form that he's in is just coated with this insane amount of armament haki on top of everything else. But down below you have Smoker meeting up with none other than Law, as well as Buggy and Hancock and Sabo, now voiced by Johnny Young Bach because of the whole situation with Vic Mignogna. But, all things considered, Johnny Young Bosch does a great job as Sabo. Like, I love the chill vibe that he has going on, but even in Japanese, Sabo had really chill vibes going on throughout this entire movie, and he's just here on a bit of a whim. And while Smoker sounds especially pissed in the English version, like, dude needs to chill. All that nicotine, he needs to take a few more stogies, because all that nicotine is not curving his edge. But, ultimately, Law proclaims to everyone present that what they need to do is to work together. He has a plan in order to, put this really big attack out on Bullet that'll cause, him to try to reassemble himself. And, with that opportunity, Smoker, Sabo, Boa, and Buggy should go in and strike at him. That way they'd be able to, completely get through all of that armament haki. And all this time, from a distance, Rob Lucci is watching, and they then spot Luffy flying overhead to take on Bullet, and Bullet just smacks him back down into the ground. And naturally, once he's down, Boa is all over him, and whereas everyone wasn't listening to Law's plan at first, once Luffy finds out that Law has a plan, he's all for it. With no questions asked, he's just like, okay, I trust you. And, everyone just kind of joins in, because it's just like, they get caught up in Luffy's flow. It always happens, no matter what. But, I really love this, but as even though they have this big epic moment where they're all standing together, Buggy has pretty much been knocked unconscious. We have Law and Smoker and Boa and Sabo all standing together, ready to kick some ass with Rob Lucci off in the distance in the background, all ready to be like, yeah, let's do this thing, let's do it to it, let's get in, let's get that bread. Luffy immediately disregards the fact that Law had a plan and goes racing in, only to be beaten down once again off into the distance. And, well, at first, Law is just like, oh, I can't believe he didn't listen. All of a sudden, you see Boa go racing off in order to just be like, how dare you continuously hit my beloved? And at first, everybody in the ear is just like, oh man, what is she even gonna do? Boa delivers this massive, insane kick to Douglas Bullet's midsection, and it just throws him for a moment, and it visibly knocks him back, and you could hear everyone in the theater freaking out, like, what the hell was that? Like, I had flashbacks to this argument I had with this one dude, because, in the manga right now, the warlord system has been abolished, and all the Marines are moving into on Amazon Lily, and this one friend of mine is just like, oh, she'll be taken down, no sweat. I'm just like, nah, don't underestimate Boa Hancock, and I'm glad I was right, because like, dude, that was a hell of a kick. And I'm telling people like, yo, don't sleep on Boa, because we've never legit seen her in an actual fight, in a serious knockdown drag out fight. Never seen her in one of those. At most, she just kind of lets Luffy do his thing as not to steal his thunder, or she's fighting some side bitch. But, normally we never see Boa Hancock actually going in. But this is good for Law's plans as, Douglas starts to try to strengthen himself and, re-armor himself. But, Law uses room in order to switch out all the parts in order to create some chinks in his armor. And we actually see that this was actually the plan of none other than Crocodile, as Crocodile sends in his sand to be traded out with some of the armor and parts and stuff. That way it weakens a little bit of Douglas's, monstrous form. And then in comes, Smoker as well as Sabo, and they do this simultaneous strike, and it manages to knock off one of Bullet's arms. And it goes cascading down, and it almost hits Buggy. Buggy even tries in vain to send out one of his muggy balls to no avail. But, in order to make it look like, Buggy did something, Rob Lucci manages to just completely annihilate the arm, which is just like, how much stronger has Rob Lucci become that he completely decimated that gigantic arm? But Bullet continues to just try to stand up and, continue to fight, just like, I'll take you on even with one arm. Meanwhile, in the distance, Luffy's just like, okay, if I can't take him down with just my, regularly enlarged fish, I'll have to go even bigger, because that's the only thing he has. So in the distance, you see Luffy continuing to blow into his Gear 4th fist, making it bigger and bigger. But, everyone, the United Front for the most part gets ready once again for one more attack, because that should be able to really stick it to Bullet. So they all go in, individually in order to get this attack in. But, Bullet hardens the entirety of what's left of his form, so Law brings everyone together. Even though they were attacking in separate places all over, he brings them together in one fine point right at its midsection, and their combined power just completely blows a hole in his Bullet's giant mechanized form. And he does actually manage to knock them to the ground, but before they can actually go in and be like, okay, now what do we do? They see in the distance Luffy's massive fist, triggering that meme of Patrick saying, here comes the giant fist! And he goes, that is Luffy right there. He goes in with his King Kong gun, I think, or it was King Kong gun, something like that, and he goes in on Bullet, and Bullet just like, oh, you think that'll stop me? And he, armament hockeys up the giant fist of his, battle mech, and he's clashing with Luffy. They're struggling, but Luffy managed to break through Bullet's weakened form, but, once he manages to break through that, Bullet's still in his catapult. He still has his, mech suit in there. And he's just like, yeah, well, too bad you didn't count on this. And he goes in to try to hit Luffy. And all of a sudden, Usopp's pop greens that he put all around Bullet, that we thought he was just shooting in vain, activate, and we come to find out they're activated by, big impacts, and they completely tie up the catapult, destroying it right then and there, sending Bullet, out of the catapult, exposing him, showing that, when it counts, Usopp comes in clutch. And so Luffy goes in on Bullet in Gear 4th once again, because time limit seems to have nothing going on here. Like, Luffy is just going into Gear 4th like at the drop of a hat. And Douglas is just like, you know what? I can still take it on. So he armament hockeys up his arms. And that's a death sentence. Once characters start armament hockeying up more of their body, like, the worse they do. It happened with Virgo, it happened with Pika, like, do not armament hockey up your whole body. And he and Luffy are just going in, it's like a JoJo moment where they're just wailing on each other, fist clashing with fists and all of this. And everyone's looking on, the Buster Call is getting ready to be unleashed, and they're just really going at it, and Douglas is just like, hey guy, it's only alone that you'll be able to gain true power. That's why you're weak. And Luffy calls Smile. It's just like, but you weren't alone. You were never truly alone. You would have never gotten to this point if you were alone. And that's when Douglas has the flashback of death, when he does realize he wasn't alone. And that's the one part that I feel a lot of reviewers have missed, because he thinks back to when, Roger defeated him, and during that moment, Bullet vowed to train harder and get stronger so that one day he would be able to take down Roger. And Roger's like, come at me anytime, bro. Yarr. And that was it. That's the part that people don't think about. It's the fact that Douglas wasn't by himself. It was because he had Roger to strive to surpass that he got as strong as he did. Roger created that want in him to get stronger. That's where that want even came from. Before, Bullet was just this rampaging beast who had been set out after a war that he no longer had a part in, that no longer existed. He was just rampaging across the seas, and Roger gave him purpose, a need, a desire to get stronger. That's exactly what makes Bullet who he is, that desire to one day beat Roger, and he lost that because he no longer had Roger to fight. And a lot of people are just like, oh, that's when, he ended up being taken down by Luffy. Honestly, if you notice in that moment, Bullet just kind of stops. He has that flashback, and he kind of just stops attacking Luffy in that moment, and Luffy's still wailing on him, so naturally the punches start to connect with Bullet's body. But Bullet at this point has pretty much given up because he realizes that, shit, everything I've been saying is a lie. I did need Roger to help me get stronger, because he created that need in Bullet to get stronger. So Bullet just gets pummeled into the ground. Luffy exhausts himself. He thanks Usopp for what he did, but when Boa comes to greet Luffy and treat him and see if he's alright, Luffy actually also managed to get the log post for the One Piece. And without missing a beat, in comes both Rob Lucci as well as Crocodile. Now, we actually saw before what was keeping them originally at bay, because originally they were kind of lurking around, but before they could even go in, Sanji actually ended up clashing with Rob Lucci, whereas Zoro ended up clashing with Crocodile, which are matchups I would love to see more of. But they managed to get around the two, and as they go in to try to grab the log post, because they each want it for their own ends, which delightful use of both Rob Lucci and Crocodile. Like, yeah, skulking in the shadows and all that good stuff. Because we haven't seen Crocodile since the time skip, so for all we know, he has a different design. But before they can even grab it from Luffy, he crushes it. He crushes the log post to Laftel, and oh man, the people just being like, what in the audience just matched the way that both Lucci and Crocodile look like. Why would you do that? And Luffy's just like, I don't need something like that. And if it harkens back to when Luffy was at Sabaody, and he could have just asked Rayleigh, "Hey, old man, where's the One Piece?" Doesn't even he could have asked Rayleigh, but Usopp even tried to. It's just like, but Luffy said, "No, don't do that. I don't want to go on a boring adventure. I don't want to just know where it is. I want to have fun. I want to. It won't be fun anymore." It's just like, the adventure would be too easy if you could just directly go to Laftel. And that's the one thing about this series that nobody really seems to get. So many outside people who don't even watch the series are just like, when are they finally going to get to One Piece? Why are they taking so long? It's just like, because Luffy's having fun. This whole series is about the journey, not the destination. But man, just the people salty about that one. But Law's just like, of course, and he teleports everyone to the Sunny in order to get them out of harm's way. They all borrowed up on the Thousand Sunny. Buena Festa is just like, oh man, I bet on the wrong person. And Sabo shows up right behind him and just blasts him in the face before he can make his getaway, because apparently the Revolutionary Army was specifically after Buena Festa, whereas CP0 and Crocodile were after the One Piece. They were none too happy with a war profiteer such as Douglas Bullet. He's a little too dangerous to have running around on the high seas, so they were none too cool with what he was up to. So Sabo completely decimates Buena Festa. I don't know if they turned him over to the Marines or what, but his days are done. Especially after what he did to the pirates and what he said to the underworld. Like, dude, Big News Morgan was pissed. But everyone kind of goes their own separate ways. We even have one of the Marines call out to Kizaru, because the Buster Call never started with them requesting that they stop the Buster Call because the log post was destroyed. They can't get what they want. But I was always under the assumption a Buster Call couldn't be stopped. So a little bit of continuity quandary going on there, but everyone's trying to make their escape, and I feel that the only reason the Buster Call was kind of called off was because they were just like, well, the pirates are trying to escape, let's go after them. And unfortunately, the pirates only have one real way to get out. There's a straight line to get out, and unfortunately, it's right through the Marines. And you have all the supernovas and everyone, just kind of racing through it, just like we'll fight all the entire battalion of Navy battleships in order to escape. So everyone starts racing towards the Navy on this collision course. Meanwhile, on a nearby ship, you see Sabo with the revolutionaries he picked up on, and a lot of the civilians who want no part of this whole situation. And he goes to Anna. He's just like, he pulls up this piece of paper. It's just like, can you visualize this? And so as the clash between the various pirates and the Marines is about to get underway, and Kizaru's ready to fire out his Yada's mirror and all that good stuff, in comes a double heat can. And it's just like, that's Sabo, my man Sabo. But it wasn't just Sabo. We actually see that in that moment, Sabo had created an illusion of Ace as well. So he sent out that he can to send Luffy off like a friggin' boss. And that's what we end the story on. Everyone being protected by these massive walls of flames, and the pirates managing to escape, Sabo sending his brother off, and that's when the credits roll. And what a way to end that. What a way to end that movie. But we have the end credits, images and all that good stuff. We have, Smoker and Hina arresting all the various pirates who were left behind. We have Sabo dropping off Hachi, Kami, Papuga, as well as An from the island and all that good stuff, which is a nice little bit of a moment. They saved the civilians and all that good stuff who were just selling stuff. What else was there? Wapple and Fox, who were also involved in this whole situation, but they were just there for random gags. What else was there? I'm really drawing a blank as to what really happened in the credits section, because even though I saw the credits like twice, there was only really so much to really go through and check out before things ended. But you get to see everyone kind of just let off for the most part, and where they end up, and you get this after credit scene where Nami is pissed because it's just like you had essentially One Piece in your hands and you let it go, and Luffy's just like, it would have been no fun though. And Usopp kind of figured as much as he laughs it off, because he knew that Luffy wouldn't have liked such a boring adventure. And we end off with Luffy saying that he wants to go on a ton more adventures with his best friends. And that's the end of the movie, which was, man, what a fun movie. What a fun time. This was a very great One Piece movie. Not a great standalone one. Film Z and Strong World and all those probably made a little bit better of standalone movies, specifically Strong World. If you wanted to just get into One Piece, I think Strong World would have been a nice standout One Piece film. But Film Z still continues to be my top tier One Piece movie, just because Z was such a great villain, and almost a non-villain because of just how cool of a guy he was. Like, Z just left that strong of an impression. We get to still film Gold just because they didn't explain Guild to Zoro's backstory in the actual movie. I had to read subsequent material to actually know what his deal was. I had a fun time with Film Gold, but even amongst the best One Piece movies, it's still one of the better One Piece movies. Like, dude, though. But my list is definitely at the moment, as far as I think, it's Film Z, Stampede, Strong World, than film gold right now in terms of the ones that Oda has actually worked on. So, yeah, like Stampede just had so much, because it had so many fun Easter eggs and fan service and stuff. Like, dude, a alliance between, like, and just seeing, Luffy, Sabo, Smoker, Hancock, Buggy, Law, Lucci, Crocodile, like some of the biggest and most popular One Piece characters out there. Like, dude, like that scratched an itch so many other movies just never scratch. It's a shame that this isn't canon, but it really just really points out why Oda was just like, yeah, if it wasn't for the 20th anniversary of One Piece, I would have never let this movie get made. And it's just like, yeah, damn right, because they had a lot of stuff that I feel that Oda would have just loved to have saved for something else, like to just not have incorporated here, because we even got to see what Buggy actually looks like, and I love the fact that his actual hair is blonde. I don't know if we ever found that out solidly, that his hair is supposed to be blonde. Either that or he dyed it blonde, but we see Buggy outside of his giant, billowing cape form or whatever, which was fun to see and all that good stuff. But man, what a wild and crazy, just such wild and crazy stuff. We even had this audio, little melodic rendition of Memories, one of the first One Piece endings. Like, dude, like, they were scratching so many itches, like, I don't know if we'll make it to the 30th anniversary, because Oda is trying to wrap things up, but it's hard to say if this will be wrapped up in the next few years. It feels like this could go for another 10 years before we finally get the conclusion of One Piece. But I'd be okay with that. Like, I love this series, and Oda already knows how it ends, so if nothing else, we will one day see that ending. You just have to enjoy the ride, have some fun, be like Luffy, and just chill. But I've gone on ad nauseum. If you made it to the end of this video, you are a champ. Thank you so much. I don't expect too many people to have made it this far, but if you did, thank you so much. And tell me your thoughts and feelings towards this movie in the comments section below. How do you rate it amongst One Piece films? Give me your list of, top tier One Piece films, at least top 5 One Piece films. Like I said, it's definitely Filmzy, Stampede, Strong World, Film Gold, and I think my 5th one out of the original set would have definitely been Baron Omotsuri's Castle. That one weird one that a lot of people are kind of hit and miss about. But, that's my top 5, definitely. And then from there it goes the one solo movie that Zoro got. And then the rest of them kind of get a little bit more murky because I care a little bit less about them after that point. I think the worst one in my eyes, I think it actually might be the first one with El Drago, just because it's kind of boring. That's about it. It's just kind of boring. It's like, you can be good, you can be bad, just don't be boring. But yeah, if you liked this video, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike. I won't be mad. And if you want to, tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below, so I might better myself for future videos. If you want to say shorten your videos, go ahead. But that ain't happening anytime soon. And if you want to see more One Piece videos, subscribe and hit the bell icon. That way you never miss out on another One Piece film review. Oh man, this is my first one and probably my last one. You never know how this thing might go. But, definitely subscribe and hit the bell icon for more One Piece content. If you want to find me on social media, just Google Duuz-Diz-Din. I am everywhere, for better and many times for worse. Hide your children's eyes. And until the next video, just remember that sometimes it takes a little bit of chaos and a little bit of anarchy to start a stampede. But which end of that stampede you're on is all up in the air. Until next time, I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and it's high time I went to bed. Bye-bye.